Back in the early 2000s, action-adventure games were gaining immense popularity with such gems as the Lord of the Rings movie tie-in games. What if we took the hack-and-slash action of Return of the King and combined it with the well-established and loved franchise of Dungeons & Dragons? Then we get Forgotten Realms, Demonstone, an action-adventure game based on the fantasy world setting of the Forgotten Realms campaign from D&D, developed by Stormfront Studios and published by Atari in 2004 for PC, PS2 and Xbox. Although the game feels like a light version of Return of the King, using mostly the same gameplay mechanics regarding the combat and role-playing aspects, its unique presentation is what sets it apart and provides an overall enjoyable experience. Our adventure begins with Ranek, a human fighter stumbling across a battle between two orc armies. They have taken prisoners and in their raids have completely ravaged the lands of Damara. As if that's not enough, a giant red dragon is wreaking chaos, spewing its despicable flames left and right. Ranek rushes into the fray and we take control. Combat in Demonstone is simple and intuitive. You have your main attack, which utilizes your weapon, and the secondary melee attack, like a shoulder bash for Ranek. You can combine these two for various powerful combos once you unlock them. You can also stab enemies that are lying on the ground to finish them off, just like in Return of the King, although it's very rarely used besides a specific chapter. Finally, Ranek can use his throwing axes to strike enemies from a distance. After dealing with some orcs and saving some prisoners, Ranek comes across Zai, a spunky female half-drow, half-wood elf rogue, who goes her own way. Combat-wise, Zai can do pretty much everything Ranek can do, although she's much weaker, especially her throwing daggers. Stealth is where she excels, however. She can use gleaming dark spots to hide herself and become practically invisible. At this state, all enemy aggro is lost, and Zai is undetectable, making it easy to reach an unaware enemy's back and dispatch them with one swift hit. When there are few enemies and Zai is on her own, it's fairly easy and enjoyable to slip in and out of the shadows and backstab enemies at your leisure. Most of the time, however, you're overwhelmed by enemies who fidget about constantly, like they're under the influence of mind-altering substances, making reaching their back unnecessarily hard. I barely used Zai in my playthrough, and even the game knows is not very useful, giving you dedicated sections where you only play as her, to justify somewhat her existence, I guess. Pinned down by some orc archers, Ranek and Zai are rescued by Ilias, a human sorcerer with questionable hairstyle choices. Ilias's melee fighting abilities are limited, predictably, but magic is his area of expertise, with his staff granting him essentially an unblockable ranged attack with infinite range and unlimited ammo. I gotta say, although Ranek is the fighter and the main damage dealer, Ilias was definitely my favorite character. Being able to stay away from danger, pelting your enemies with spells while your companions distract them is a guilty pleasure, and helps mitigate some of the game's frustrating difficulty. Chapter 1 serves as an introduction to our characters and their abilities. In Chapter 2, the Gemspark Mine, we get a taste of the game's unique mechanic of team fighting. You can switch to any character at will, while the other two are controlled by the AI, which most of the time is serviceable. You'll use Ranek when you're surrounded by enemies, Ilias for dispatching archers or faraway enemies, and Zai for the occasional stealth kill and exploration. If any of the characters dies, it's game over, even if you're not controlling them. Killing enemies will build up your hero meter, which you can then use for a powerful AoE attack. If everyone has a full hero meter, you can then unleash a team super, which decimates enemies and helps greatly with your experience gain. Eventually, the three heroes defeat their first boss and gain a unique trinket each. Ranek gets the gauntlets of Ogre Power, which can be used to smash obstacles and nearby enemies. Ilias gets the Beads of Force, which basically act as remote-controlled bombs. Zai gets the Ring of Jumping, which unsurprisingly lets her jump, and makes her useful for the few very simple platforming sections the game has. I find it a bit silly that the character with innate acrobatic and stealth talents needs a magical ring to be able to lift her legs off the ground, but I digress. These trinkets help our heroes progress through the mine. Unfortunately, in doing so, they unleash a great evil upon the world. The titular demon stone hidden in the mine was used to imprison two terrible warlords, Igor, the leader of the Slad army, and Sireka, general of the Githyanki. With the two warlords free, our heroes, under the guidance of Kelben Blackstaff, must find and use a new demon stone to imprison them and save Faerun from complete annihilation. And that's the main premise of the game, our heroes journeying across the land of Faerun to find the demon stone and then the evil warlords. Although the story of the game was written by Robert Anthony Salvatore, the famous author of many fantasy novels set in the Forgotten Realms, it's nothing spectacular. It's an interesting story, don't get me wrong, and it utilizes many D&D elements, moving the plot forward at a good pace. It's just that there is nothing really intriguing to hold on to, it's just a basic good versus evil plot. The length of the game is something that also hurts the plot. This is a really short game, lasting for about 4 hours, without any of the replayability the Lord of the Rings games had. There are some small RPG elements, sure, but they don't help much. Whenever you finish a level, you'll see a results screen, which shows the team's experience and gold gained, either by killing enemies or by destroying chests or barrels. You can then spend each character's experience and gold to gain new abilities and equipment. Although the system is pretty rudimentary and most upgrades are plain stat increases with no extra flavor, it's still nice seeing your characters gain new equipment that you can see and become stronger. Ilius, for example, goes from a dork casting magic missiles to learning the best spell power word there is: heal. You're gonna need those upgrades because this game, despite it being very short, its 10 chapters can also be excruciatingly hard. Enemies swarm you constantly and are relentless in their attacking. Usually it's not that much of a problem since you can block indefinitely and riposting doesn't even require any timing, however the game tries to implement some variety in its mechanics, thus screwing you over. Many times you will be prompted to protect a party member or a gate from being destroyed, other times you'll have to achieve a certain goal while enemies constantly attack you and break your concentration. These end up being the most frustrating parts of the game as you fumble about trying to micromanage both the enemies and your task, and combined with the fact that some chapters consist of just one area with multiple repetitive goals, Demon Stone's gameplay pace isn't as good as its stories. The game is also completely linear, with its only exploration being tiny paths Zai can use to find chests full of gold or potions. Despite its flaws, what really drew me in Demon Stone was its phenomenal presentation. The graphics are pretty good for 2004, able to portray rich and vast landscapes or conflicts of a huge scale. Too many 2D sprites for my liking though. Voice acting is great, featuring the voice of Patrick Stewart as Kelben Blackstaff and Michael Clark Duncan as Igor. The dialogue is appropriately cheesy, and the tiny bits of banter and in-game dialogue give some depth to the characters and the relationship they have with each other. Once you finish a chapter, you gain access to extras such as artwork and background lore narrations from each hero and villain. These are great, and I wish they were incorporated to the main story, if only to flesh out the characters a bit more. The soundtrack is the main star of this game, featuring epic elven choirs and majestic orchestral arrangements. It really set the mood for the grand adventure and helped mitigate some of my frustration with the game. If you're a fan of action-adventure games, especially those set in rich fantasy worlds, Forgotten Realms Demon Stone is worth a playthrough. Its engaging story, diverse characters, and enjoyable combat system make it a hidden gem from the early 2000s. However, if you're looking for a more involved experience or a game with extensive replayability, you might want to temper your expectations. It's only $10 on GOG, so if you're looking for a fun time waster, I say go for it. So, have you had the pleasure of playing Forgotten Realms Demon Stone? Share your thoughts, experiences, and memories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful reviews of both classic and contemporary games. Thanks for joining me, and until next time, take care and have fun.